Hey guys, good evening. How are you today? And welcome to this second lesson of Unit 11. And just a quick review from the things we saw in the last lesson. Remember that in the first section we saw time clauses, and in this case particular words that introduced them. So we had before, after, once, the moment, as soon as, until, and by the time. Okay, so as you can see, all of these words introduce time clauses, right? Before I finished college, after I graduated, once I thought of quitting, the moment I got my first promotion, as soon as I saved enough money, until I got sick, by the time I was 30. Okay, so all of these key words introduce time clauses. We also talked about expressing regret, but in this for this lesson we're not going to talk about regret or hypothetical situations. We are going to focus on time clauses. And here for this exercise, using time expressions and time clauses, I made an example of an experience with a credit card. Now remember that for this topic, the words we're going to use, these particular vocabulary words which introduce time expressions, we usually use these words to talk about experiences. Okay, so as you can see, I think I used all of them, and it's just a quick story about an experience with a credit card. Now my question is, do you have a credit card? What was your experience? Okay, but anyway, here's an example of a small experience with a credit card. So we start. Before I had a job, I was really stubborn to get a credit card. After the bank finally gave me one, I was so excited. Once I went shopping with my friends and I spent a lot of money, obviously using the credit card. The moment the credit card bill arrived, I was in shock to see how much I'd spent. As soon as the payment deadline came, I asked my parents to lend me money. I paid all my debt until I finally got a job. And by the time I graduated from school, I had already been on a terrible credit card experience. Okay, so as you can see, this is not a very positive credit card experience. In this case, obviously this person was not responsible, but the idea is that with this story, this experience, we got to use all of the time or the vocabulary for time clauses. Okay, so before, after, once, the moment, as soon as, until, and by the time. Okay, so here are all of the time expressions used. But I mean, this was just an example of an experience with a credit card. But remember that we can talk about any experience that you have. Okay, so in this case, here are some ideas, right? For example, your first date. So think about that first date you had, and just how did it go, right? So start thinking about the story, start thinking about the experience, and obviously start thinking about using time expressions. Okay, so as you can see, you can use before. So for example, before you went on that date, after, maybe if you went to the movies, after you watched the movies, or maybe if you went for dinner, after you ate or after you finish your food, etc. You can use that. Once, maybe at a particular time. The moment is the same. As soon as, right? So in this case, I don't know, depending on your story. So for example, if you were having dinner, in your first date. So maybe as soon as the food arrived, or as soon as the waiter came, as soon as, right, the dessert arrived. So we could use all of these expressions, right? Until and by the time. But anyway, it could be about your first date. It could also be about your first job. So if you're still at school, maybe, well, this is not an experience for you yet, but in the future it will. Okay. But if you are working and you are currently working and you already have your job, well, then this could be another example of an experience. Also, if you have a car, your first car, if you're married, right? Again, an experience. And becoming a parent, right? So if you have children, that could be another great experience, right? For the good and for the bad. So here are other examples, okay? So this is going to be the end of lesson 2, and I will see you for the final lesson, lesson 3. All right? Have a nice day.